Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the resumption of the hearing. We're going to continue hearing evidence from Mr. Meakins. Mr. Meakins, can you hear me? Can you see me?
I can hear you clearly, sir, and see you clearly.
Good, thank you very much. And you're ready to go on, are you?
Yes, I am, yes.
Good, thank you. Yes, Miss Grange, then when you're ready.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Meakins, I now want to ask you some questions about the Booth-Muri technical guidance. And if we can look first at MET 53158 underscore P05 at page 80. So this is an email from you to Mr. Lionel Marconnet at Arconic, copying in Mr. Verler, Claude Verler, and it's on the 11th of April 2016, and the subject is Booth-Muri ACM fire safety, and you've attached the Booth-Muri technical note from March 2016, and you say in the email, "Good morning, Lionel, Claude. I've been forwarded this document which Booth-Muri have produced and are now circulating to their customers and clients." And you say, "Well worth a read. Please let me know your thoughts. Kind regards, Vince." Do you recall sending that email?
I do recall sending the email, yes.
And if we go down to page 81, the next page of this clip, this is the guidance document, the Booth-Muri guidance document from March 2016, which you forwarded to your colleagues in Merksheim in that email. Now, do you remember reading this guidance?
I remember, yes, casting my eye over the document several times and then forwarding it on to Lionel and Claude.
Yes. So your email indicates that you thought it was interesting. Why did you think it was interesting enough to send to your colleagues in France?
I think there's some information on there that could be relevant to our industry. Well, it is relevant to our industry, and any sort of information that we gather when we're out and about with clients and customers, then we automatically send it back to France for their consult, so they can have a good look and see what's going on in the UK market.
Yes, I mean, this was technical information on fire performance routes, wasn't it?
Yes, I do believe there was some technical performance in there, yeah.
Yeah, so you must have had at least some understanding of those technical requirements to appreciate that this was significant guidance, yes?
I was talking to Booth-Muri about it, so yes, it was very clear that there were certain things in there when you read it that was relevant to us. So that's why I sent it to Merksheim.
Yes, and if we can look again at that first page of the guidance on page 81, what we can see is that essentially it sets out, we can pan out a little bit, there are 4 routes to compliance that this document sets out. And what it does is in option 1, it's saying that all materials need to be non-combustible or of limited combustibility. That's route 1. Route 2 is a full system test to 8414. Route 3 is a desktop assessment, and route 4 is a holistic fire engineered approach. So those are some routes that will be familiar to the panel, but what we see here in route 1 is that it's saying that to be compliant, we can see this in the second line onwards, to be compliant with ADB, you have to restrict all significant elements of each and every layer of the wall to non-combustible or limited combustibility materials, yes?
I'm sorry, yes.
And therefore, this was pretty important guidance, wasn't it? Because it presented a real problem for you marketing both your PE and your FR panels in the UK. That's right, isn't it?
Sorry, this was a document that was done in-house from what I understand. So it was actually put together by Euroclad. So it was their view. It wasn't a document that was legally put out there to everybody. It was something that they put together. This is what I understood it to be, explaining certain aspects.
I understand that. I understand that this was some industry guidance that was put together, But I'm going to ask the question again. This was pretty important guidance, wasn't it? Because it presented a real problem for you marketing the PE and FR panels in the UK, yes?
Well, as I said, it was an interesting read. It's something that I think I would have liked to hear more back from France, i.e. the technical, and Lionel Marconi, with their view to what they actually thought about the document.
Did you appreciate at the time that this guidance, if followed by others, would stop you being able to sell Rainabond PE and indeed Rainabond FR panels in the UK?
No, I didn't look at it like that, no.
You didn't. So did you have any opinion on the significance of this guidance when it came out?
In all honesty, I know that Booth Murray worked very closely with Aluka Bond on their A2 materials. So I saw that as a marketing document to market their A2 material in the marketplace. But no, I didn't think it was anything that would sort of damage us from using the FR or PE. I didn't look into it like that. I'd sent it off for analysis to France for them to give me some technical feedback, because I wasn't aware of what it actually, all of it really meant.
I see. If we look at the second page of the guidance on page 82 of this clip, we see some tables. And if we look at the layer 3 table, what we can see is it's telling you whether certain materials meet the non-combustible or limited combustibility requirement. And what we can see is that the PE cord ACM by Rainabond, the last line, does not meet it. And we can also see that the Rainabond FR in the section below that, where it says B1S1D0 core on the left, then fourth line down, Rainabond FR, that also does not meet the non-combustible or limited combustibility requirements. Do you remember seeing this table at the time?
I can remember casting my eye over it and seeing all the other competitors on there having the same sort of non-combustibility as no. So it was very interesting that it was just the A2 core, but because this wasn't, it was their look at on the whole thing. This is why I sent it to France, for them to give me some more feedback that I didn't get. So, it would have been good to get some sort of feedback on the technical side to give me some more information on exactly what it meant.
I see. Did you ever get a response from Lionel Marconi or Claude Verler after you'd sent them this document?
I can honestly say I don't remember ever getting a response back.
Okay. And some questions now about the FR core increasing in popularity. You told the inquiry last week that you said your main remit was to sell the FR Rainabond product, and that you were told by Alain Flacon, when he was managing director, to focus your efforts on the sales of that FR product. Do you remember that was your evidence?
That's absolutely correct, yes.
And you said that you were told this at a sales meet. Can you help us as to when that sales meet took place, that you were told to focus on FR?
Sorry, it would have been a very early sales meet because Alain was then the sales manager then, sales director. And I just recall them, wanting to move forward with the FR. Sorry, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. Sorry, to move forward with the FR product. As I mentioned before, we had a PE product, but I took the PE product to be a standard core product, and the FR to be more of an advanced product, that everyone would move forward already with this sort of product. So I recall Alan saying that early on in the sales meets and saying, wherever we can, we need to really focus on the FR product, because we're putting a lot of effort into it to manufacture it.
Were you told why you had to focus your efforts on the FR product?
No, we were just told that the FR product needs to be focused. No reason to why.
You told the inquiry last week that when you started with Arconic, that you did not understand that the UK was a PE market, and you said we had a big focus on FR as well, as PE. So it was pretty much 50-50. That's what you said in your evidence last week.
Absolutely, in my opinion, when I went into the market, obviously I was talking to various different fabricators and people that we could get involved with on the fabrication side, and it was very much FR. You know, everyone was talking a Lucabond FR and wanting to move forward, you know, and specifying FR. So there was PE, but it was mainly when I was in my time, the FR product.
I see. So did you mean that when you joined Arconic, that Arconic itself sold pretty much 50-50 PE and FR?
I wouldn't say we sold. I would say we were looking at producing more FR for the market. So we would certainly, wherever need be, the FR product would be put forward. I
see. Ms. French told us in her witness statement that she couldn't recall any occasion on which she had sold the FR product. Can you help us as to why there's such a difference between the two of you, and yet you're only 4 months apart in terms of how you recall the market? Yes, I would say that Ms. French was working with two main fabricators, which were Genius Facade Systems, and I think she worked with CEP and a very few fabricators. So they were probably predominantly coming back with projects that warrant an FR. Well, we know that's different now, but they were obviously asking for FR or ordering FR material via the office or via Deborah or through Deborah. When I'd started with the company, my remit was to bring on new clients, clients that we'd lost due to neglect in the past, the likes of Sotec, Argonaut, and all the other fabricators that we used to work with, and they were indicated from the very beginning that they only used FR products. Very, very few only used PE. So that's when I was opened up to FR. Sotec used a lot of a Lucabond with it, and they are FR product. Okay. Can we look at something Mr. Schmidt tells us in his witness statement? If we can go to his second witness statement, this is MET 53187, page 14, paragraph 44. So he says there, I'll read it with you. Although Arconic wanted to further reduce the cost of FR, our general push towards FR was successful, as by 2015, the overall sales from Merxheim of Rainabond FR for architecture exceeded the sales of Rainabond PE for architecture. And then he exhibits a graph. And then he says, furthermore, in relation to UK sales, FR moved from accounting for approximately 3% of sales in 2014 to 30% of sales in 2015 and 34% of sales in 2016. Whilst the UK market was therefore lagging behind other countries, as ACMPE was popular, we can go over the page, and the market was slow to respond to change, the position was moving, and the percentage of UK sales which were FR did increase between 2013 and 2016 inclusive. We can see that there. So the figures that Mr. Schmidt gives is that there is a big increase from 2014 to 2015. It goes from 3% to 30%, but then only a small increase in the percentage of sales into 2016. That's 30% to 34%. If you, as you say, the market was 50-50, can you account for why there was only a small increase in sales between 2015 and 2016 in terms of the FR product? Well, I think we work as specification sales managers. So we work on specifying products for the future. And this can sometimes take up to 2 years of hard work on a project before we're actually specified and before we win the project. So there are lots of projects that I was working on with fabricators and the like that wouldn't come to light until the end of 16, 17, 18 in some cases. So there were lots of projects in the pipeline that were FR. I see. Okay. Can we look at another document which helps us on the sales of PE in the UK? This is a META 50763. And it's an Excel spreadsheet, so we may need that bringing up on the screen. It's the first tab that I need. We got that? MET, here we go. Yes, thank you. So this is a spreadsheet. The title of it is Sales of PE in the UK 1998 to 2017. And in this first tab, we can see year on year what the square meterage was of Rainabon that was sold, and then the revenue. And what we can see is that the meter squared figure of PE sold in 2015 is 33,000 meters squared. Do you see that? Towards the bottom of those figures.
33. Yes, I can see that, yes.
And then in 2016, 18,337. Do you have that?
I can, yeah, I can see that, yeah.
So there is a drop in the sales of PE, or sorry, the meterage squared of PE as between 2015 and 2016, but we still have around 18,337 meters squared of PE being sold in 2016. Do you see that?
I do see that, yes.
So, and it's right, isn't it, that significant quantities of PE did carry on being sold in 2016? Absolutely,
and I can explain to where it was sold. The PE would have predominantly been sold into the CID market. Now, I know Deborah French didn't actually get involved in the CID market. It was just the architectural market. I had a big turnaround when I started, and the corporate identification market was a big thing.
Yes, I understand.
And that warranted PE material. So they would order the PE material, and that's probably a lot where that would come from.
I see. So you're saying that on your experience, sales of PE to architecture dropped, but it was the other sales that kept it up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I see. Mr. Verler, in his witness statement, tells us that in 2015, the prices of Rainabon FR and PE were almost identical. He says that the price of the FR was around 26.71 euros and the PE 26.06 euros. Was that your experience, that the price of the two products was almost the same?
No, it wasn't the same. Not in the UK, I'm afraid. I believe you could drop lower with the PE, but I think he's got it mixed up because we were always about £2 a square metre more in FR than we were in PE. So I'm not sure where we've got the same figures, because that just would not have been the case. It was more expensive to produce the FR.
Yes.
And we would never have sold FR at the same price as PE.
Yes, so I think we can agree, can we, that Arconic, certainly in the UK, was not able to offer the FR core at the PE standard price.
Never, no.
No. Mr. Verler also says that the UK market was slow to shift to the FR core compared with other countries. Would you agree with that?
I would say when I started, there was plenty of opportunity to have an FR projects. So yeah, I would say they were probably slower than most of our competitors, yes.
Yeah. Can we look at some emails now on this? This is MET3053158_P06, page 99. Now, this is an email dated the 3rd of May 2016 from Alain Flacon to a number of personnel within Arconic, CCing Lionel Marconnet and Claude Verler and others. And this appears to be, and maybe you can help us, does this seem to be an email sent to the French sales team?
Claude. Yes, that seems to be predominantly French people in there, yes. So I'd say so, yeah.
Yes, and we can see that the email reads, "Good morning all. As you know, the fire safety classifications for Rainabon building products in France show a discrepancy between NFP 92501 and its equivalent under EN 13501. And then the discrepancies are then set out in tables below. So you can see that under the norme française, the national France tests, it's getting an M1 classification for rivet and cassette, but he's set out what it's getting under the EN 13501 tests as well, and it's getting a C and an E, and he does the same for Rainabond PE and Rainabond FR. Do you see that?
Yes.
And then if we can look at the text below the table, he says, this ambiguous situation is open to interpretation and in particular gives control officers the option to check the M classification as a priority, as the European classification is more complex to understand and to use. You or your customers regularly specify our Rainabond products on large-scale architectural projects. As such, Alcoa Architectural Products finds itself as a knowledgeable entity and therefore accepts its responsibility and image as a specialist in this field. In view of the potential calorific benefits of Rainabond FR versus Rainabond PE, and consequently its superior performances, we have taken the proactive habit of favouring FR as the only solution in our specifications. And then in bold text, we see this. It says, as from today, I ask you to go even further and to systematically confirm in writing the requirement for FR for all projects on which a Rainabond specification is involved, regardless of the nature and size of the building project. And then if you have any questions about the application of these instructions, please contact Claude. He'll give you all the necessary information to justify this choice and advise the specifiers as best possible regarding the solution, which is by far the safest. And then I'm counting on your active cooperation. So it would appear that based on this email in May 2016, the French sales team were directly instructed to stop recommending PE and sell only FR in France, regardless of the application. Now, were you aware of that?
I've never seen that email, so no, I was unaware of that.
And in fact, Alan Flacon goes further and asks the team to systematically confirm to customers in writing that FR is required regardless of the nature and size of the building project. So it's quite a stringent instruction that's being brought in here. So just to be clear, is it your evidence that you were never aware that there'd been this change to how Rainabond was being sold in France?
No, I was unaware of how it was being sold in France. It's the first time I've seen that email.
Did you ever receive a similar instruction or anything along similar lines in the UK?
Well, later on, we obviously stopped producing the PE product and it was only just the FR. And then we obviously ceased production of FR as well and stopped the Rainabond production completely. But no, up until the fire, the tragedy at Grenfell, there was nothing said to me to stop selling or producing or putting forward the PE product. As I've mentioned before, I was involved quite heavily in the corporate identification side with fast food chains, well-known fast food chains that were purchasing PE on quite a regular basis. So fabricators were still using that for the corporate identification market in the UK.
I see. Okay. Just some questions now about the A2 product. In your witness statement, we don't need to turn it up, but this is at paragraph 20, page 7, and you've mentioned it in your evidence already. You said that one of your main disadvantages was being unable to offer any A2 product in the UK market other than Renault Dual. That's right, isn't it?
That's absolutely correct, yes.
And I think, as you confirmed before, Renault Dual was 2 thin skins of aluminium only. That's right, isn't it?
That's correct. There was no core in a Renault Dual.
Did you ever sell Reno Dual for architectural use? Was it ever used in that way?
I'm afraid it was a brilliant, it was a fantastic product, and it was unfortunately not viable in the UK market because it was so very, very expensive. So therefore, it was up against the likes of A2 products, and we were losing due to the price of the materials. That's the only reason. The product itself was a superb product.
I see. Yeah. If we can look at Mr. Schmidt's second witness statement now, MET 3053187 at page 7. I want to look at what he says at paragraph 17. In this paragraph, he's explaining at the beginning what the different products are. In the second line, you can see he talks about the Rainabond PE, FR, and A2 product. And then a few lines down that, in the fifth line, he says the A2 reference comes from the class that the product achieves when tested to European standard, and then he gives the European standard. And sorry, just above that, he said that the A2 has a core made of 90% mineral content plus 10% polyethylene, and that made it of limited combustibility. Were you made aware of what the composition was of the A2 product by Arconic?
No, I was never told what the makeup of the A2 product was. But we understood that obviously its rating was a non-combustible rating, so it was a lot better product for high-rise buildings, and that's what's been specified a lot of the time on buildings.
If we look back at that paragraph, I just want to ask you about some other points that Mr. Schmidt makes in this paragraph about the A2 product. So if we pick it up in the 7th line, on the right-hand side, it begins AAP. He says, Arconic started to manufacture Rainabond A2 at Merxheim in late 2016, with the launch of A2 product from the Merxheim production line being in January 2017. And then he says, which was after the supply of the material which was used on Grenfell Tower. Just pausing there for a moment, were you aware of that? Were you told that there'd been a launch of an A2 product that was then available to be sold in late 2017?
Yes, there was a launch of the product, the A2 product. Unfortunately, it wasn't for the UK market. There was a launch, but the UK market, we couldn't go ahead with the product purely because we didn't have a BBA. There was a lot of stuff that we needed to finish off. Our lead times were very, very poor on the product, and we could only produce it in certain colours. So it just wasn't viable for the UK market. Everybody was asking for various different colours, and it was quite expensive as well, again, into the UK market.
I see. And if we go back to that paragraph, he then continues, this is picking that paragraph 17 up 10 lines down. It's pretty much just over halfway down that paragraph. He says, from 2014, Arconic had made limited sales of Rainabond A2, with the product at that time being manufactured by a third party in China and returned to Arconic as a finished product for sale. And he says, I've been asked whether the product was publicly advertised by Arconic at the time of the supply of the material used on Grenfell Tower. And having spoken to colleagues, understand that it was not. It would, however, have been available if requested by a customer. Now, we wanted to ask, were you aware of that? Were you aware that from 2014, Arconic had been able to manufacture via a third party in China a Rainabond A2 product?
No, I was never aware that we had an A2 product all the way through from the time I started in 2015 until we launched it in 2017. If I had have been, then obviously I would have been, promoting that product. I'm not sure. You mentioned something about it being manufactured in China. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I've never been asked or was aware of a product that we could put into the UK market.
I see. So on your understanding, the A2 product wasn't available to sell in the UK at the time of the Grenfell Tower project. So 2014 through to the end of 2015.
Yeah, I had no A2 product for the UK market.
I see. Can we look at another piece of marketing literature now? This is a brochure called Fire Safety in High-Rise Buildings from 2016. And this is a piece of marketing material that you have specifically referred to in your witness statement as having been available. If we can look at what you say in your statement at page 16, paragraph 49. So in paragraph 49.1, we can see you are talking about brochures that were available in 2014 when you began working for Arconic. And then if we could go over the page to look at paragraph 49.3.4, you talk about this document, Rainabond, Rainalux, Fire Safety in High-Rise Buildings, our Fire Solutions leaflet. And you say this followed introduction of the new product towards the end of 2016, namely an ACM core panel, an A2 core ACM panel. So is it right that this new piece of literature, Fire Safety in High-Rise Buildings, was introduced at the time that Arconic had an A2 product available, yes?
It was released, I do believe, the A2 product at the BAU exhibition in Germany that I attended. So we introduced it then, and I can't remember if that was 2017 or 16, but there was a leaflet with the A2 material that we'd released.
Yeah, let's have a look at that leaflet now, and we may need the native version to get a clean copy of it. It's ARC 50465. No, I don't think that's it. It's ARC 50465. It's entitled Rainalux Fire Safety in High-Rise Buildings. There we go. So I think this is a folded brochure again, and it would appear that the front page appears on the right-hand side of this screen. And it says aluminium solutions for facades and roofs cladding, fire safety in high-rise buildings, our fire solutions. Do you have that?
I can see the brochure, yes.
And is this the brochure that you were referring to in that part of your statement?
I don't believe it is, actually. I can't remember seeing this particular brochure. It obviously the title's the same, but I can't be absolutely 100% sure that that is the exact brochure, because I remember there were two, I think, brochures for the A2 product.
I see. Well, this is the version that we have. In the middle of the page, in very tiny text, there's a date. You can take it from me. It's the 12th. It says 12 to 2016,
okay,
dating this document to December 2016. And it was provided to us in English, so it would appear to be for the English market, yes? Or the English-speaking market.
Yes, of course, yes.
And if we look on the far left, under test methods and certifications, we can see, if we could blow that far left page up, it basically says test EN 13501, and it says under that the European fire certification EN 13501 is the most complete test when it comes to fire. When other tests do not take into account major factors, the European fire certification EN 13501 part 1 does. So it's very much saying you need to look at the EN testing. And there we have underneath it, there's a table. I'm sorry it's not as clear as it perhaps could be, but I can help you with some of what's in there. what we can see is a table with ticks against what's tested by certain testing. And we can see in the top line, it does say EN 13501 and all the boxes are ticked. So flame spread, smoke production and burning droplets are all ticked. And then it's got an ASTM test underneath that. And then it has BS 476 part 6 and part 7. And it's making clear that flame spread is tested by that with the tick, but smoke production and burning droplets are not. So that's what's said there, that this test, this European test, is the most complete test. And then if we go to the bottom of the page, we can see different European classification standards. It goes down from A1 to D. We note that there's no E or F on here. Did you notice that at the time?
I don't recall seeing this particular brochure, actually. I know we had one, but this one, I don't remember seeing these charts or these...
I see. If we can go now down to the second page and look at the far left-hand side. If we can look at the top of the page on the far left-hand side, it says the fire solutions from Arconic architectural products. And it says fire is a key issue when it comes to buildings. And underneath that, in the black text, it says, when conceiving a building, it's crucial to choose the adapted products in order to avoid fire to spread to the whole building, especially when it comes to facades and roofs. The fire can spread extremely rapidly. And then underneath that, in the second paragraph, it says, important to take the fire characteristic into account when starting the construction or refurbishment of a building in order to protect the people and assets while limiting fire propagation. And then it says it is especially crucial for public establishments such as hospitals, schools, offices, etc. And then it says on the right-hand side in the black text, buildings are also classified according to their height and destination, public buildings, industrial buildings, housings, ... It will also define which materials are safer to use. Another important rule when it comes to the height of buildings concerns the accessibility of the fire brigade to the fire in the building. As soon as the building is higher than the firefighters' ladders, it has to be conceived with an incombustible material. So that is the very clear advice that's being given in this brochure. And underneath that, we can see there's diagrams. And do you see on the right-hand side, there's a building diagram with a ladder next to it. And you can see it's telling you where on the building you should be using the 3 cores, A2 at the top, FR then underneath that, I think 30 meters, and then below 10 meters, it's saying PE. Do you have that?
I do, yes, I can see that.
And then the caption in small black writing, you can't read this on this version, I'm afraid, but it says, as soon as the building is higher than the firefighters' ladders, it has to be conceived with an incombustible material. So it repeats that part again. And then underneath that, there's this heading, advantages of our product. If we can just go down the page. And here it says in blue, Rainabond architecture with FR or A2 cores, Reno Dual, Reno Lux, aluminium composite panels and sheets represent the ideal material because of several advantages. And one of those advantages, you can see the blue bullet, is limit fire propagation. And the first bullet point says architecture aluminium composite panels and their respectively fire retardant and incombustible properties. The fire propagation is limited. The cores of our product are main keys. The cores are mainly mineral, FR approximately 70% minerals, A2 approximately 90% minerals. And then in the middle and the right-hand pages, if we can come back out, we see that there are tables giving the fire performance of the FR and the A2 product. And note, there is nothing said here at all in these tables about the fire properties of the PE product. Now, do you agree that this shows that certainly by this time, Arconic knew full well that PE should not be sold for tall buildings?
I will say I've never seen this copy of this document. I knew that we had a document out there, but it wasn't this one. Do you know if this had been printed?
Well, Mr. Meakins, I've just been informed this is the document that you exhibit to the paragraph of your witness statement that I just showed you.
Yes, but as I said, I think there's two documents. This particular document I've not seen. I know the document that we had at Bow was not this one, so I don't know where this particular one has come from, or even if it was actually printed, or was it in the just as a sort of marketing brochure ready to go to the market?
Well, I can't help you, Mr. Meakins, other than to say that this is in your exhibits, and this is the document that you have exhibited, is my understanding, to your witness statement. The
title of the document, yes, but I don't remember ever seeing this document. So, yes.
Are you saying that you never saw a brochure that in such clear and unequivocal terms explained that you shouldn't use PE in certain applications?
I am. I've never seen a brochure explaining, as you've said, not to use a PE material. It tells you where you can use the PE, but I've not seen this particular document.
I see. So you never saw anything to this effect at the time that the A2 product had been...
Not in this depth, no. I've not seen this.
I wanted to ask you, assuming that you'd seen it, whether this gave you any pause for thought about the tall buildings for which Rainabond PE had already been sold by you. But does it follow that you wouldn't have thought about that because you weren't aware of the detail in this brochure?
As you're aware, by this time, I was fully aware that the PE was specified at lower level and the FR at another level. So I was aware of that, but I'm saying I've not seen this document, so I can't comment on this particular document.
It would appear that what Arconic are doing is making a virtue of the A2 product by comparing it very clearly with the poorer performance of the PE product, yes?
I can't comment on that because I haven't seen that particular brochure. I haven't studied it, so I can't see. I really can't comment on that.
And there was never any earlier marketing material, was there, that spelled out the fire safety risks of the different projects in this amount of detail, was there?
Absolutely. I don't remember seeing any document in this depth, this detail, no.
And is it right that it wasn't until Arconic had its own viable A2 product manufactured in-house that Arconic decided to market the fact that PE was unsuitable for tall buildings?
I never actually had an A2 product, as you're aware, in the UK, and I don't ever recall them, coming up with any statement saying that.
Is it right that from early 2017 you began to receive orders for the A2 product in the UK?
That's correct, yes.
And how did the sales of A2 progress? Well,
they didn't, because we didn't have the A2 material. We were told to specify the A2 material and start getting orders in. So I had a few projects that I was working on that I was very excited about. And unfortunately, because we couldn't manufacture the A2 material in the colours and the times and at the cost we said we were going to be able to, I lost the projects to competitors.
I see. Yeah. Can we just look at an email on this? This is INQ 14536. And I should make clear, this is a translation of what was a French email. The inquiries had it translated. It's an email, if we look at the top, from Veronica de Fontaine on the 14th of June 2017, the day of the Grenfell Tower fire, to Lionel Marconnet. And the subject is fire in London Grenfell Tower. And he says, Lionel, just for your information, I've just had Vince on the phone. He's distraught. After this fire, Alucobond called all the market players, prescribing that everything be done in A2. that day, Vince lost 4 projects because orders would come in quickly and we don't have A2 certificates. You see that there?
Yes, I do, yes.
And I think that confirms what you've already said in your evidence, that you didn't have any form of certificate, including a BBA certificate for the A2 product. Is that right? And that's why you lost sales?
That's correct. We didn't. It was due to the time as well. The turnaround of the product was months away from the actual needing the product. So we were way behind with production, and it just wasn't viable. People were going elsewhere. And
is it right that you did continue to sell PE cord products even in 2017 prior to the Grenfell fire?
The only PE products that were sold all the way through my career up until the Grenfell Tower were for the corporate identification market that went into projects, as I've mentioned before, fast food joints and car garages and as such.
I see. Can we just look at some of your weekly reports? If we look at META 50710, this is your weekly report of the 15th of May 2017. You can take that from me. This is your 15th of May 2017 weekly report. And if we look halfway down page 1, there's a heading CEP Omnis. And we can see 3 lines down, there's a reference to a Bagot Street project. And you say Bagot Street, half of the materials for this order have now been placed, 5,000 meters squared. The other half will be ordered in August. And you'd say they have secured another Rainabon project in our Spiral Gold Metallic. What material had been secured as that other Rainabon project? Can you help us?
Which one are we talking about? The Bagot Street, I guess.
Well, underneath Bagot Street, you've then said they, which we understood to mean CEP Omnis, have secured another Rainabon project in our Spiral Gold Metallic.
I'm sorry, I would have scored another Rainabon project. I don't know the name of the project, so they would have just told me that that was the colour that they would have secured a project in.
I see. If we look then at another weekly report written by you a month later on the 12th of June 2017, this is META 50706. So this is your weekly report for June 2017. In the first paragraph, under market and competition, prospect, project, opportunity, you've got CEP Omnis again, and you've got Grenfell Towers London. Further to the fire disaster in London today, I've had various conversations with CEP regarding the future orders and the orders in the system and wanting to change them to FR. And you say this, looking back on their purchase history, they only ever order PE. So with today's fires, this might change drastically. We'll update accordingly.
That's correct.
So would it be right then that any orders by CEP prior to that time would have been PE, because you've looked back and you've checked and that was all they were ordering?
Yes, they were my findings. Obviously, I'd specified the Bagot Street project that was an FR project. But looking back at the history after the fire of what they were ordering, which I think I was asked to do, they all seem to have been PE, and there was no sort of record of any FR being purchased.
Yes. If we can go back to your May 2017 report, this is META 50710. There's a reference there. We can go META 50710, and we go to the bottom of the first page. There's a reference to Genius Facades and the Hilton Hotel. It says Genius Facades, Hilton Hotel. I've been told the prices given by Lionel Veronica Holiday have enabled them to secure this project at 22.5 meters squared. Do you see that there?
Yes, I see that, yeah.
Sorry, per square meter. Looking at that price, would you agree that's likely to be a price for PE rather than FR?
I would say that's probably an FR price, to be honest. They tend to have got their PE for around about the £20 mark. It would have been 19 to £20, £22.50. See, although it is a sparkling black, so that could have been a little bit more expensive, actually. So it could have been likely to have been FR, I would think.
Okay. It seems quite a low price for FR, but if that's your evidence.
Well, unless we can go back and find out what the project was, I can't be sure.
Okay, let's move on. If we look at page 3 within this report, there's reference to a project called Mosley Street. This is an Omnis project. Do you see that in the table, the third project down?
Yes, I do.
Mosley
Yes.
Street, 1,200 meters squared, awaiting clients go ahead with colour. Can we just look at some documents relating to that? If we go to MET 30053179. And if we go to page 2, in the start of the chain, there's an email from Jeff Blades at the bottom of that page. Jeff Blades to you on the 10th of January at 10:14. Morning, Vince, Anna. The subject 75 Mosley Street, Manchester. And Jeff Blades states, ref the above, we're now in receipt of an order to provide the cassette panels. Please see attached cassette panel schedule. All panels are to be Rainabon deep grey anodized. Could you please confirm your rate of 24.75 meters squared? And then if we go to page 5, on the 22nd of May, 2017, we see Deborah Talbot of CEP come back to you. Good afternoon, Vince. I'd like to order the following Rainabon panels in dark grey anodized, and she sets them out and then says, I understand you've agreed the price with Jeff. However, he's on holiday. And your reply is at the bottom of page 4, the email of the 22nd of May at 16:42. You say, good afternoon, Deborah. Thank you for your order. Will you be sending an official purchase order, or shall we use the reference in the subject field? Virgin, please can we accept this order and put into production? Now, did you understand that to be an order for PE at the time?
Mosley Street, I think it was a project that was an ongoing project before my time. I thought I understood that to be an FR project.
Well, we can see in the email above, Virgin Grandin has clarified and asked for some information. So she says from Arconic, hi Vince, I hope you're fine, smiley face. Some important info are missing before being able to register the order. And her second query is PE or FR core. Do you see that?
Yes, I can see that, yeah.
And it was only then that you asked Deborah Talbot to confirm. If we go to page 1, the second email from the top is from you to Deborah Talbot on the 23rd of May. And you say, hi, Debbie, this 24.75 for our deep grey anodized was a special price from senior management for PE. Can you confirm that you're needing PE or FR on this project, please? The price for FR is 26.75 meters squared. I was under the impression that FR was needed on Mosley Street. Do you see that?
That's correct, yes.
And then if you scroll up to the top email, Deborah Talbot replies, it's the PE. I have attached our order. Thanks for your help. So here we can see that there's a culmination of emails and eventually they confirm it was PE. Can you remember why you had thought in your email that it was FR that was wanted?
I don't think we supplied that project in PE because I think we questioned it and found out it was an FR project. I would like to look into that a bit more because my my problem was that I had with the office in France, and this is all fair play to France and the girls in France, the internal staff. They'd be called up by the fabricators placing orders for standard material for projects that were specified otherwise. And then once the project has been, or the order has been placed, they would get that material, and I'd have no say in what material was ordered. They had to order the material through me for me to make that decision and say, well, actually, guys, this is an FR project. It isn't a PE project. And that's why I mentioned about the PE being ordered in the past from CEP. Sorry to waffle, but I'm trying to get the whole picture so you understand.
Were you aware that this was a 7-storey office redevelopment?
No, I can't. I don't believe it. I understood it was a 7-storey development. This was a project that they would have been working on before for quite a few years, I understand.
And you can't help us as to whether it's right that after the fire at Grenfell Tower, CEP changed this order to FR from PE?
Well, because I guess they realised that it was specified FR. They'd ordered the PE, and then they changed from FR to from PE to FR. As I mentioned before, I looked at the history, and all they'd done in the past when they phoned up for orders were just ordered the standard core, and there'd be no one questioning it because there was no one to question it. When I came on board, I would find the specification, know it's an FR project, and I'd say, well, I understand that is an FR project, and hence that's why they changed the specification from PE to FR.
I see. Thank you. I've just got 2 more topics to cover with you. The next topic is visits from Merksheim personnel to the UK. I want to ask you about a couple of visits
Yes.
where individuals from Merksheim came over to the UK. If we look at Mr. Verler's witness statement, MET 30/53190, page 29. I want to look at paragraph 103. So I'll read it with you. Mr. Verler says, as far as I'm aware, my only contact with Ryden prior to the Grenfell Tower fire was in relation to a separate project where Rainabond product had been fitted on a project at Camden in London, the Chalcots estate. I was asked by Vince Meakins to attend a site visit with himself and 2 people from Ryden, Alan White and Steve Blake, on the 4th of May 2017, in relation to a delamination issue allegedly affecting some panels fitted to the blocks. Now, just pausing there, can you recall Mr. Verler's visit to the Chalcots estate in May 2017?
I can recall Mr. Verler's visit, yes.
And can you recall that it was a delamination problem that he was going to look at on site?
I can. I initially went to the project and couldn't answer the technical questions that I was being asked. I wasn't sure what caused the delamination. That's why Mr. Verler came to site at a later date.
And were you present when he met representatives of Ryden on site?
I do believe I was. I don't remember Steve Blake, but I do remember Mr. White.
And if we carry on with what he says, picking up on the second line from the bottom, he says, during that meeting, we walked around the perimeter of all the tower blocks at the Chalcots estate, and the technical delamination matter was discussed. A sample of the material from one of the towers was taken by one of the Ryden representatives and provided to me for further review. During the course of that site visit, I expressed to the 2 Ryden representatives surprise to see a number of buildings of such height with ACM PE cladding material rather than an FR product. The Ryden representatives commented that the relevant UK regulations allow the use of ACM PE products in such scenarios. I did not make any further inquiries relating to the UK regulations following this comment by Ryden. Now, do you recall Mr. Verler expressing surprise during that meeting about the number of tall buildings that had ACM PE on them rather than an FR product?
No, I don't recall that conversation ever going ahead with Ryden. I certainly didn't hear it if that was the case. No, is the answer to that.
Thank you. Did he ever make any similar comments to you, say outside of this meeting at Chalcott's, about the number of tall buildings with PE called ACM on them in the UK, as opposed to the FR product?
No, I can't ever recall him talking to me about any PE product. It's very difficult, if you can understand, to tell the difference between a PE and an FR product when it's on the building. So that would be very surprising.
Yes, but at the Chalcott's estate, Mr. Verla would have known it was ACM PE if he was trying to deal with a delamination issue, wouldn't he?
No, not necessarily. At the core, these are very similar colour. You would, unless we'd taken it away for testing, or it had taken the panel off and it actually said on the back of the panel that it was PE. It's very difficult to tell the difference between a PE and FR when it's in situ. That's my opinion. I mean, I can't understand how he would have known that was PE just by looking at the building. I
see. I'd now like to ask you about another meeting in the UK in August 2015. Can we go to META 401884? So this visit, just to introduce it, relates to a visit by Nicholas Remy in August 2015. So here what we see is Claude Verla is sending to you, CCing Mr. Remy on 27th of August 2015, a visit report. That's the subject. And the attachments contain a visit report. Do you remember Nicholas Remy coming to the UK in August 2015 for a visit?
I do remember Nicholas Remy coming over vaguely in 2015 when I first started with a company, but I can't recall why he was coming to the UK. It would have been a technical issue of some type.
Let's look at the attachment. This is a visit report. It's at META 401885. And this is a document entitled Claim Report 12915, and it's about the Media City UK Residential Block A. Do you see that?
I do, yes, I remember it now.
Yeah, you can recall Nicholas Remy's visit, can you, to this project?
I can, yes, to the Media City, yes.
And where in the UK was this development? Can you help us? I
think it was in Manchester area. It was in the Manchester area.
And under fixings and systems, we can see that the product here is Rainbond 55, it says Rainbond 554 PE. Do you see that?
I do, yes.
And it says the year of production was 2009. And the product is described as smoke silver metallic underneath that.
That's correct.
And then underneath that, if we can go down the page, under fixing systems, we can see that this was a cassette system that was installed on this project. We can see that curved cassettes. Do you see that?
I do, yes.
And there are some close-up pictures of the cassettes themselves. And if we can go down to the second page, is that Media City, the building that we see on the left there? Media City Residential Block A.
I can't be too sure, I can't 100% be sure, but the two pictures at the bottom certainly look familiar.
Yeah, so this would appear to be a tall high-rise building, yes?
It looks to be, yes, yes.
Yeah. And what someone's done in the labels on the right-hand side is indicate where there were problems with the bended cassettes and delamination. Do you have that?
Yes, I do, yeah.
And on the third page, we can see there's some more comments about delamination. All the bended cassettes are delaminating under issues and remarks. Do you see that?
Yes, I do, yes.
And then if we can look at the bottom of this page as a conclusion, it says the traceability of the panels delivered for the project has been done, no defect, in conformity with our standard production. Then in the next paragraph, the delamination occurs only in the upper and bottom curved cassettes. And then at the end of that conclusion, it says, one can raise the question of the panel's transformation method that shouldn't be used for elements installed close to the seawater. And then Nicholas Remy is there. So he would appear in this report to be raising a question about how close to some water this building was. Do you remember that?
I remember vaguely, yes. So, but the seawater, it was in Manchester, so I'm not sure if it was that near to the sea. But I do remember, yes, that being mentioned.
And for the transcript, we don't need to turn this up. It's META 401763. Shortly after this, you attach this visit report and you send it to Lee Davis on the 28th of August 2015, copying in Claude Verler, Nicholas Remy and Peter Froelich. Now, my question for you is, during this visit, did Mr. Remy raise any concerns about the suitability of PE cassettes on this high-rise building from a fire safety perspective?
No, there was absolutely no mention, from what I can understand. As you know, that the project I didn't have any dealings with initially. This was a project that was done way before my time, but he didn't mention anything about that product being on the building. Yes,
but Nicholas Remy and indeed Claude Verler, having received this report, would have been aware that the Media City building was a high-rise building clad with Rainabon PE cassettes. That's right, isn't it?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah. Just finally now, some very brief questions about after the fire. Is it right that on the 26th of June 2017, Arconic ceased its global sales of Rainabon with a PE core for any architectural use?
I can't be sure of the dates, but yes, we did. We stopped producing Rainabon.
And what was your understanding about why that was done? Why were all PE sales stopped for any architectural use?
I can only surmise after the fire they realised that perhaps that wasn't the right materials to put on the building, on a high-rise building. But that would be my, I'm just surmising. I don't know for sure. It was never mentioned.
So you were never told what the reason was for that?
No, it just ceased.
I see. Mr. Chairman, those are all of my questions. If we could maybe have a short break. There haven't been many further questions so far, so I would hope that maybe we could have a break of perhaps 10 minutes.
Well, I think we'll combine this with the afternoon break. Mr. Meakins, just so you understand, when council gets to the end of questions, we have to have a break to enable those who are not physically present or even virtually present to raise further matters they'd like to ask about.
Of course, so, yeah.
So we do that, but we're getting close to the time when we'd have a break during the afternoon anyway. So we'll combine the two. It's just coming up to 3:10, so we'll come back at 3:25. We'll see if there are any more questions for you, and with any luck, you won't be here much longer.
Okay, well, thank you, sir.
And please remember not to talk about your evidence over the break.
Of course.
Good. All right, thank you very much. 3:25 then, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, welcome back, everyone. We'll now see whether Miss Grange has any more questions for Mr. Meakins. Mr. Meakins, are you there?
I am here, sir, yes.
Good. You can see me and hear me all right, I hope.
I can hear you clearly and see you clearly, yes.
Good. Thank you very much. Well, then we'll see whether Miss Grange has any more questions for you.
Okay.
Yes, Miss Grange.
Mr. Chairman, no, I'm happy to report that we have no further questions for Mr. Meakins. Thank you.
Oh, that's almost a first.
Not quite a first, but
All right. Well, thank you very much anyway. Well, Mr. Meakins, somewhat to my surprise, as you can tell, there are no further questions we need to put to you.
Okay.
So it just remains, I think, for me to thank you very much for being available to give us your evidence. I'm sorry it took rather longer than you were originally led to expect, but that's the way some things go from time to time. Anyway, we're very grateful to you. It's been helpful to hear what you have to tell us. And that's the end as far as you're concerned.
No, thank you, sir. Thank you. And hopefully the answers that I've given have been helpful for your inquiry.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Right. Goodbye. Well, we have another witness who is waiting to be called, but we can't actually go straight to him because we need to have a short break for making the necessary arrangements first. So we'll have a break now, I think probably not more than for 5, perhaps 10 minutes, and we'll resume as soon as we're ready to do so. Thank you very much. Welcome back, everyone. Our next witness is going to be Mr. Claude Schmidt, the president of Arconic, I think. Is that right, Mr. Millett?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it is. I just want to say one or two things before I begin taking Mr. Schmidt's evidence in order to explain how we propose to address questions about translation.
Yes.
Schmidt's solicitors, DLA Piper, have told us that his English is not good enough to enable him to feel confident enough to be able to answer our questions in English. In order, therefore, to address that problem, we will take the following steps. First, Mr. Schmidt will give his evidence in French through interpreters. We have two independent and extremely experienced professional interpreters to whom we are very grateful. We proposed simultaneous translation, but Arconic opposed it on the grounds that it risked losing transparency and accuracy. And so, reluctantly, we've agreed that translation will not be simultaneous, but sequential, so that both the French and the English can be heard. That will have maximum transparency, but I'm afraid it will mean a lack of flow and somewhat slower speeds. So I would ask everybody to bear with us. Secondly, when going to an Arconic witness statement, I will show Mr. Schmidt the French version of that statement where it is available, and I will display or ask to have displayed the English version at the same time. I'll also ask him to read the paragraph of the French version, and I will read out the English passages I intend to ask him about. Both versions will be displayed using the split screen function. Third, when taking Mr. Schmidt to a document, I will show him the French original where it exists, and at the same time display the English translation, again using the split screen function. In the majority of cases of French language emails, English language versions do exist, done by DLA Piper, and they are contained in the same exhibit, usually a few pages away. Fourthly, where the document is an English original, there are often translations available, which will again will be shown using the split screen function. Those translations have been done either by the Metropolitan Police or by DLA Piper or by the Inquiry. Fifthly, in cases where I wish to take Mr. Schmidt to an English language document, including witness statements for which there is no French translation, I will ask the interpreter to translate for him the passages I want to put to him. And finally, our two interpreters will switch places every 20 to 30 minutes or so. There will be no break as they do so. They will also be seen on screen only to take the interpreter's oath, and thereafter will not be visible. So, Mr. Chairman, that is how we propose, subject to you and the panel, to proceed. Without further ado, I would now then call Mr. Schmidt.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Millett. I think the first step is for me to say hello to our interpreters and invite them to make the affirmation before they undertake their work. So can I, first of all, ask Miss Kennedy, is she there and can she hear me and see me? Are you there, Miss Kennedy? Ah, I can hear you, but I think you're muted.
There, I'm unmuted now. I can hear you and see you.
Thank you very much. Can I begin by apologizing
Pleasure.
for having kept you waiting all afternoon? We hoped
Don't
to
worry.
get to you straight after lunch, but life being what it is, we haven't managed it. So thank you for being available to help us.
Not at all.
Do you have a copy of the affirmation to be made by an interpreter on a screen in front of you on a card?
I don't, but I do now, yes. So would you like me to read it out?
I would, please, yes.
I do solemnly, sincerely, and truly declare and affirm that I will well and faithfully interpret and true explanation make of all such matters and things as shall be required of me according to the best of my skill and understanding.
Thank you very much indeed. And now I'm going to say hello to our other interpreter, Mr. De Las Rice.
Yes, good morning. So good afternoon, rather.
You repeat, I don't know whether you heard what I said to your colleague, but let me repeat the apology for having kept you sitting around all afternoon waiting for this moment.
Not at all. I mean, it was, it's nobody's, these things happen.
They do, I'm afraid. Do you have a copy of the affirmation in front of you somewhere?
In a second, I think it will be on the screen. Yes, it is. Shall I read it?
Would you mind? Thank you.
I do solemnly, sincerely, and truly declare and affirm that I will well and faithfully interpret and true explanation make of all such matters and things as shall be required of me, according to the best of my skill and understanding.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, having introduced the interpreters, I think we can now go over to say hello to Mr. Schmidt. And Mr. Schmidt, are you there? Can you see me and can you hear me? Hello, Mr. Schmidt.
Yes, I'm here. I'm just waiting for the translation. Sorry.
Well, you can see me, and we can at least talk English to this extent. And you
Bon, vous me voyez.
All right. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup.
Now, Mr. Schmidt, I gather that you would like to affirm. Do you have somewhere in front of you, probably on the screen, a copy of the affirmation?
Alors, est-ce que vous avez un exemplaire, voilà, de l'affirmation sur l'écran?
Oui, je l'ai.
Yes, I have it.
Thank you very much. Would you please then make the affirmation in French as you see it on the screen?
Voulez-vous bien lire ce qui se trouve sur l'écran, s'il vous plaît?
Oui, je vais le faire. En toute solennité, sincérité, vérité, je déclare et j'affirme que la déposition que je vais faire sera la vérité, toute la vérité et rien que la vérité.
Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup.
Before Mr. Millett asks you some questions, can I just run through one or two small matters with you?
Avant que M. Millet vous pose des questions, permettez-moi de parler de quelques aspects avec vous rapidement.
Please, Mr. Schmidt, can you confirm that you are alone in the room from which you're giving evidence?
Voulez-vous bien confirmer que vous êtes seul dans la salle à partir de laquelle vous témoignez?
Oui, je le confirme.
Yes, I confirm.
Thank you. Can you confirm that you do not have any documents or other materials with you?
Pouvez-vous bien confirmer que vous n'avez pas de documents ni d'autres matériaux avec vous, sur vous?
Oui, je confirme.
I confirm.
Thank you.
Merci.
And finally, can you confirm that your mobile phone is in another room and that you don't have any other electronic device with you which is capable of receiving messages?
Et pouvez-vous confirmer que votre GSM se trouve dans une autre salle et que vous n'avez pas de dispositif électronique à partir desquels vous pouvez recevoir des messages?
Oui, je le confirme.
I confirm.
Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup.
Now, I should tell you that your legal representatives are in the virtual hearing room.
Alors, il faut que je vous dise évidemment que vos représentants juridiques se trouvent dans la salle virtuelle
They will be following your evidence
et ils vont suivre votre déposition
and can intervene if they consider there's an urgent need to do so.
et ils ont le droit d'intervenir s'ils considèrent qu'il y a un besoin urgent afin de le faire.
But otherwise, I've asked them to keep their microphones on mute and their cameras switched off.
Mais sinon, j'aurais demandé en fait d'éteindre leur micro et aussi d'éteindre leur caméra.
I hope there aren't going to be any problems with sound or vision.
J'espère qu'il n'y aura pas de problème au niveau du son ou de la vision.
But if there are technical difficulties, please bear with us and we will sort them out as soon as possible.
Mais si jamais il y avait en fait des problèmes techniques, nous allons essayer de les régler aussitôt que possible.
And if you have any difficulties or you need to attract my attention, please wave your hand or do something else that's suitable.
Et si vous avez des difficultés ou vous voulez attirer mon attention, vous pouvez en fait faire un signe avec vos mains ou faire le nécessaire.
Now, I apologize for the fact that we've kept you waiting so long this afternoon.
Désolée qu'on vous a fait attendre si longtemps cet après-midi.
I'm afraid we overran with the previous witness,
Le témoin précédent, évidemment, a dépassé l'horaire.
and I apologize for the inconvenience.
Et excusez-nous de l'inconvénient.
Because we're starting later than we expected, we shall not have a break between now and the end of the afternoon.
Parce que nous avons commencé plus tard qu'on pensait, nous n'allons pas organiser une pause entre maintenant et la fin de l'après-midi.
Is there anything you'd like to ask me or bring to my attention before?
Y a-t-il quelque chose une question que vous voulez me poser ou y a-t-il quelque chose que vous voulez attirer mon attention?
Non, je suis prêt. Merci pour ces informations.
No, I'm ready. Thank you for the information.
Good. Thank you very much. In that
Merci
case,
beaucoup.
I'd like Mr. Millett to put some questions to you.
Alors maintenant, je vais demander à Monsieur Millet de vous poser des questions.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes, Mr. Millett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Schmidt, thank you for attending this public inquiry to give your evidence. We are very grateful to you.
Monsieur Schmidt, merci d'avoir accepté de participer à cette enquête publique afin de déposer.
Now, you're going to give your evidence through an interpreter. The interpreter will translate my questions into French and your answers into English.
Alors, vous allez en fait vous exprimer par l'intermédiaire d'une interprète. L'interprète va interpréter mes questions vers le français et elle va interpréter aussi vos réponses vers l'anglais.
We'll also show you the documents and the relevant parts of the witness statements and documents in French and English at the same time where I can.
Et je ferai de mon mieux afin de vous montrer les documents et aussi les extraits de votre déposition en français et en anglais quand je peux.
Can I check, please, that you can confirm that you do not know the interpreters and have no personal or business connections with them?
Est-ce que je peux confirmer que vous ne connaissez pas les interprètes et que vous n'avez aucune connexion personnelle ni commerciale avec elles?
Oui, je le confirme, je ne les connaissais pas avant qu'on se rencontre la semaine dernière.
I confirm that I didn't know them until I met them last week.
If you have any difficulty understanding any of the questions I ask you, please say, and I will ask the question again or put it in a different way.
Si jamais il y a une difficulté, si jamais il y a une question qui n'est pas très claire, que vous ne la comprenez pas très bien, n'hésitez pas de me le dire et je la poserai différemment.
Now, Mr. Schmidt, you have made 3 witness statements. Is that correct?
Monsieur Schmidt, vous avez en fait fait 3 dépositions. C'est juste?
Oui,
Yes.
The statements and the documents I'm going to show you will appear on your screen in front of you.
Et ces déclarations et ces documents vont paraître sur l'écran devant vous.
Can we first go, please, to your first witness statement at MET 3075418, dated the 17th of August 2017.
Alors, pouvons-nous d'abord regarder en fait cette déposition MET 307 54 18 du 17 août.
Madam Interpreter, I should just say there's no need to translate the numeric.
That's very kind of you. Fine. 17 août 2017, mais vous le voyez. Ouais.
This is your first statement of the 17th of August 2017, and it's 10 pages long, I believe.
Alors ça, c'est votre première déposition du 17 août 2017 qui est de 10 pages.
Can you confirm that that is your statement?
Voulez-vous bien confirmer que c'est bien votre déposition?
je ne suis pas sûr de la reconnaître, mais j'ai effectivement fait une déposition auprès de la police anglaise à cette date, et je suppose donc que c'est cette déposition.
I imagine it is my witness statement. I can't confirm 100% that is that one, but I did make a witness statement to the UK, to the British police on that date.
Yes. Well, I wonder if I can help you further by asking you to look at the first page of that statement and seeing if you recognize it.
Pouvez-vous bien regarder la première page de cette déposition et me dire si vous la reconnaissez?
Oui.
And
Yes.
the second page, see if you
La deuxième page, si vous voyez, vous pouvez voir si vous la reconnaissez.
Oui, oui, c'est bien ça.
Yes, that is it.
Thank you. Now,
Merci.
I understand you made this statement in English, and then it was read to you in French, and you confirmed its accuracy. Is that correct?
Alors, il paraît que vous avez en fait fait cette déposition en anglais, on vous l'a lu, et puis en français, et vous avez confirmé que c'était précis, que c'était exact.
Oui, j'ai eu le soutien d'un conseil qui me l'a traduit, et donc j'ai confirmé que je suis en phase avec.
Yes, I had the support of an advisor who translated it for me, so yes.
Can we look at MET 30 48331 at page 3, please?
Maintenant, nous allons regarder le document suivant que vous allez voir à l'écran. 3e page.
Now, this is your second statement, which you provided in French on the 10th of September 2019. Is that correct?
Alors, est-ce que c'est correct que ça, c'est votre deuxième déposition que vous avez en fait fournie le 10 septembre 2019?
Oui, c'est bien celle-ci, ouais.
Yes, that's it.
And is it right that this statement has been provided to the inquiry in parts? And what you see on the screen is the first 20 pages.
Alors, est-ce que c'est correct qu'en fait, cette déposition a été fournie à l'enquête en partie? Là, vous voyez les 20 premières pages.
Je ne le sais pas. Je ne sais
I
pas
don't
ce qui a
know.
été mis à l'enquête.
I don't know what was submitted to the inquiry.
Right. Can you confirm that this is your statement, at least part of your statement?
Mais en tout cas, est-ce que vous pouvez confirmer que ceci représente une partie de votre déposition?
Oui, je le confirme.
Yes, I confirm.
And you can see the signature date, or the signature and date there, the 10th of September 2019.
Et voyez la signature et la date, le 10 septembre 2019.
Oui.
Yes. C'est bien votre signature?
Oui, c'est bien ma
Yes.
signature.
That is my signature.
We can keep this document on the screen, please, and have up also MET 3048338. We see the second part of your second witness statement, pages 21 to 48.
Et alors là, vous voyez la deuxième partie de votre déposition de cette date, 10 septembre 2019, c'est-à-dire ce sont les pages 21 jusqu'à 48.
You see there's a signature at the bottom of the page on the right. Is that your signature?
Et vous voyez la signature en bas à droite, c'est bien votre signature?
Oui.
Yes.
And if we go to the last page of this document, please, leave this page 48.
Et dernière page de ce document, c'est-à-dire la page 48,
We see a signature and a date also 10th of September 2019. Is that your signature?
là vous voyez une signature et une date, le 10 septembre 2019, est-ce bien votre signature?
Oui.
Yes.
And have you read this witness statement recently?
Est-ce que vous avez lu cette déposition récemment?
Oui.
Yes.
Have you read the English version of the statement translated into French to you recently?
Est-ce que vous avez lu la version anglaise qui a été traduite vers le français récemment?
Je ne comprends pas la question. On parle de quelle? De celle-ci ou de la première déposition?
Are you talking about the first witness statement or the second witness statement? I didn't quite understand the question.
The first witness statement.
Pardon, la première déposition.
Oui, je l'ai lu.
Yes, I read it.
Can we now go, please, to MET 3048344?
Alors maintenant, examinons ce document suivant.
This is, I believe, your third witness statement, also dated the 10th of September 2019. Is that right?
Votre troisième déposition aussi du 10 septembre 2019. C'est correct?
Oui.
Yes.
Is that your signature?
C'est bien votre signature?
Oui.
Yes.
And the subject matter is the loss and restoration of data from your laptop. Is that right?
Et là, le sujet, en fait, c'est la perte et la réinstallation de données à partir de votre laptop, votre ordinateur.
Oui.
Yes.
I'm just going to put that into the public domain. The certified translation of this document, please, at MET 53184.
Là, je présente la traduction certifiée de ce document.
Now, I've shown you the French. Have you read this witness statement recently?
Avez-vous lu cette déposition récemment?
Non.
No.
Now, as I understand it, Mr. Schmidt, there are two independent translations of your second and third statements.
Si j'ai bien compris, en fait, il y a deux traductions indépendantes de votre deuxième et troisième déposition.
One translation arranged by Arconic's solicitors and one arranged by the Metropolitan Police.
Une organisée par les juristes d'Arconic et l'autre organisée par la police métropolitaine.
So that you and those watching understand, I am going to be taking you only to the translations arranged by Arconic's solicitors.
Et pour bien comprendre, je vais utiliser seulement la traduction qui a été organisée par les juristes d'Arconic.
Do you understand?
Vous comprenez?
Oui,
Yes.
Thank you. Now, I have shown you 3 witness statements. You say that the contents of your witness statements are true.
Alors, je vous ai montré 3 dépositions. Est-ce que vous êtes prêt à dire que le contenu de vos dépositions est vrai?
oui.
Est-ce que c'est la vérité? Yes.
Have you discussed your statements or the evidence that you're going to give to this inquiry in answer to my questions with anybody before starting your evidence today?
Avant de débuter aujourd'hui, est-ce que vous avez déjà parlé en fait de vos dépositions ou ce que vous avez l'intention de déposer aujourd'hui avec qui que ce soit d'autre avant qu'on a débuté aujourd'hui?
Oui,
Yes.
When were those discussions?
Et quand est-ce que vous avez eu ces échanges?
principalement la semaine dernière.
Essentially last week.
Did you discuss the subject matter, the substantive subject matter of your evidence?
Avez-vous parlé essentiellement du sujet même, la substance du sujet?
Oui.
Yes.
What was the substantive discussion? What was the substance of your evidence that you discussed with your solicitors?
Alors, quelle était la partie essentielle dont vous avez parlé avec vos juristes?
En fait, on a balayé l'ensemble de mes, comment on appelle ça, de mes évidences en revue pour être sûr que je les ai bien en tête.
Well, essentially, we just went through my evidence to make sure that I had it well in mind.
Could you tell us, please, what topics you discussed with your solicitors?
Quels sont les sujets dont vous avez parlé avec vos juristes?
Les sujets qui tournent autour des tests au feu, autour du certificat BBA et principalement, je pense, mais pas seulement.
Essentially, but not only subjects related to fire tests and the BBA certificate.
Did your solicitors tell you how to answer the questions they thought I might ask on those topics?
Est-ce que vos juristes vous ont dit comment il fallait répondre aux questions que j'allais poser?
Sorry, just a moment. I think in fairness to the witness, I ought just to remind Mr. Millett, and for the benefit of others too, to remember the range of protection that a witness has for legal professional privilege.
Mr. Chairman, aware of that.
Well, I think someone ought to explain to Mr. Schmidt, maybe I'm the one to do it, that he does not have to answer questions about advice given to him by his solicitors.
Alors, je pense que quelqu'un devrait avertir Monsieur Schmidt, vous n'êtes pas obligé de dire quels sont les conseils qui vous ont été donnés par vos juristes. Vous n'êtes pas obligé de répondre à de telles questions.
Although he's free to do so.
Vous êtes libre de le faire, évidemment.
Oui,
mais vous êtes libre de le faire.
J'ai bien compris. Et puis, je veux répondre à la question parce que je voudrais la clarifier.
I understand well, and I want to answer the question because I want to clarify it.
Good.
Bien.
Donc, non, ils ne m'ont jamais donné aucune direction ou aucun conseil sur la manière de répondre aux questions.
So they've never directed me and they've never given me any kind of advice with regard to the way in which I should answer the questions.
In addition to the certification, the fire certificates and the BBA certificates, what other topics did you discuss?
Au-delà de la certification, les certificats BBA, les questions feu, quels sont les autres sujets dont vous avez parlé?
Il y a le sujet les commentaires, les discussions que j'ai pu avoir avec Claude Verlet
There's
en 2012.
There's the discussion I may have had with Claude Verlet in 2012.
Et je pense que c'est très globalement, voilà les points qu'on a discutés.
And really, essentially, these are the topics we talked about.
Very well. I'd like to ask you about your role at Arconic. Can we please to your second witness statement, MET 30533187 at page 6.
Donc, je voudrais vous poser quelques questions sur votre rôle quand vous étiez à Arconic. On va regarder votre deuxième déposition et je pense que c'est la page 6 qui va être affichée.
I'd like, in the French, please, it's at MET 3048331 at page 9.
Et c'est en page 9 dans la version française.
And I'd like to show you paragraph 12 in the French, please. I'm going to...
Ce qui nous intéresse, c'est le paragraphe 12 dans la version française.
I'm going to read paragraph 12 in English, but please read paragraph 12 in French to yourself while I do so.
Donc, on va vous demander de vous lire à vous-même silencieusement le paragraphe 12 en français. Moi, je vais vous le lire en anglais, dit le juriste.
You say, with regard to my background, I have a degree in metallurgy from St. Louis University, France. My first job, when I started in 1985, was as a production manager for Maillard SA, a bike company. I am based at the Merxheim site referred to in paragraph 6 above. In 1991, I was appointed as the general manager for Renault Lux, and between 2006 and 2007, I was production manager focusing on China and a new plant which was proposed there at the time. During that period, I was not based in China, but I did travel there. I was appointed as managing director of AAP SAS, which I shall call Arconic, in August 2007, and have held the role of president of AAP SAS since June 2010. I have held the role of vice president of Arconic Architectural Global since June 2016. So I have questions. My first question is...
Donc, j'ai des questions là-dessus. La première question est la suivante.
Until 2016, is it right that your company was known as Alcoa?
Jusqu'en 2016, votre société s'appelait Alcoa, c'est bien ça?
Oui.
Yes.
In 2016, is it right that the company changed its name to Arconic and became known as Arconic?
Et en 2016, le nom a changé, ça s'appelle Arconic et ça c'est connu comme étant Arconic, c'est bien ça?
Oui, certainement. En fait, j'ai un doute sur la date, mais c'était à cette époque-ci.
Yes, I'm not too sure about the date, but it was around that time, absolutely.
We can see that your background and training is in metallurgy.
Bon, votre formation, c'est dans le domaine de la métallurgie, n'est-ce pas?
Oui.
Yes.
You agree that that gives you or gave you some degree of understanding of technical matters in relation to Arconic's products.
Donc, on peut imaginer que ça vous a donné une compréhension des questions techniques liées aux produits d'Arconic.
Oui.
Yes.
Is it right that since August 2007, you were the most senior person at Arconic at Merxheim?
Et depuis août 2007, c'est vous qui aviez le poste le plus senior chez Arconic à Merxheim, c'est bien ça?
Je sais, ça veut dire quoi, senior?
Sorry, I mean it's vous étiez le plus haut dans la hiérarchie. Sorry, I'm explaining my interpreting a bit better.
J'ai été directeur et donc j'avais le rôle le plus élevé à Merxheim, oui.
Yes, I was the director, so therefore, yeah, I did have the highest role in Merxheim.
You tell us that since June 2010, you were president of Arconic. Can you explain what that role was?
Vous nous dites que depuis juin 2010, vous étiez président d'Arconic. Alors, qu'est-ce que c'est ce rôle? Vous pourriez expliquer?
Alors, Je ne suis pas président d'Arconic, je suis président de AAP-SAS.
I'm not president of Arconic, I'm president of AAP-SAS.
Et en fait, c'est juste pour statutairement en France, je suis le représentant légal de AAP-SAS.
And it's a question of legislation, and in France, I'm the legal representative of AAP-SAS.
C'est pour cette raison que je suis devenu ou que j'ai eu le titre de président.
And that's the reason why I've got that title of president.
Who was the president of Arconic before you took over in June 2010?
Donc, vous avez repris en 2010, mais avant vous, c'était qui le président d'Arconic?
Je ne sais pas.
I don't know.
Et je ne suis pas sûr qu'il y en avait un.
And I'm not even sure that there was one.
Since June 2016, you tell us that you held a role in global Arconic with a business in the United States. Is that a separate corporate entity from AAP-SAS?
Donc, vous nous dites que depuis 2016, vous aviez un rôle dans le Arconic Global, le Global Arconic, avec des activités aux États-Unis. Est-ce que ça, c'était quelque chose de distinct, les activités aux États-Unis, distinct de AAP-SAS?
C'est en tout cas une entité légale différente.
It's a different legal entity, a distinct legal entity.
Did your role as president of Arconic or AAP-SAS continue in parallel with your role at Global Arconic?
Donc, est-ce que votre rôle en tant que président d'AAP-SAS s'est poursuivi en parallèle, en même temps que votre rôle au sein de Global Arconic?
Oui.
Yes.
Are you still president of AAP-SAS?
Est-ce que vous êtes toujours président d'AAP-SAS?
Oui.
Yes.
Are you still its managing director based at Merksheim?
Et donc, vous êtes toujours le managing director et vous êtes basé à Merksheim. C'est ça?
Oui.
Yes.
In relation to the global Arconic business in the USA, did you report to Diana Perrier?
En ce qui concerne les activités aux États-Unis, Global Arconic, est-ce que vous dépendiez de Diana Arcoa?
Ça dépend de la période.
It depends on the time considered, the period considered.
From 2016 to the middle of 2017.
Donc, on considère la période de 2016 au milieu de 2017.
Oui, oui, je pense, oui.
Yes, I think so, yes.
After you obtained your role in the global Arconic business in June 2016, were you obliged to consult with Diana Perrier about any aspects of the AAP-SAS business?
Après que vous ayez obtenu ce rôle, donc en juin 2016 au sein de Global Arconic, est-ce que vous étiez obligé de consulter avec cette personne, Diane Perrier, jusqu'en 2017?
Oui, oui, on avait des relations hiérarchiques simplement. Diana était ma chef ou ma responsable.
Yes, we had a sort of hierarchical relationship. Diana was my boss, if you like.
Before June 2016, did you have a boss in relation to the kinds of decisions that Diana Perrier had oversight of?
Donc, avant juin 2016, est-ce que vous aviez déjà un patron, un supérieur hiérarchique en ce qui concerne le type de décision qui concernait après Diana Perrier?
Oui.
Yes.
Oui, j'ai toujours reporté à une personne dans l'organisation.
I was always reporting to somebody within the organization.
Between 2007 and 2010, to whom did you report?
Donc, dans la période 2007-2010, le reporting, ça se faisait vers qui?
Je pense que c'était Craig Belknap.
Somebody called Craig Belknap.
Could you spell his name, please?
Vous pourriez appeler son nom, s'il vous plaît?
C-R-A-I-G
Le prénom, c'est C-R-A-I-G, the first name.
B-E-L-N-A-P.
And the surname, B-E-L-N-A-P.
And what was his role?
Et son rôle, c'était quoi?
Il était responsable de AAP globalement.
He was in charge of AAP at the global level.
And what kind of decisions did Mr. Belknap make?
Et Monsieur Belknap, quel type de décision prenait-il?
Principalement, on discutait des possibilités de développement et d'orientation stratégique au niveau pour nos produits.
Well, essentially, it was discussion about development, strategic direction for products.
Et il y avait aussi une partie de reporting sur les développements, les résultats financiers, etc.
And part of the discussion also had to do with reporting, development, financial results.
And did the same apply between 2010 and 2016 that you reported to Mr. Craig Belknap?
Et est-ce que c'est la même chose s'est poursuivie dans la période 2010-2016? Vous étiez en reporting par rapport à Monsieur Belknap?
Non, Monsieur Belknap est parti, je ne sais pas exactement à quelle période, mais en 2009 ou 2010, voire peut-être en 2011.
No, because Mr. Belknap left. I can't remember exactly at what time. 2009, 2010, or maybe even 2011.
Did anybody replace him in that place in the hierarchy?
Et il a été remplacé par quelqu'un dans cette hiérarchie?
J'ai reporté pendant un temps donné directement à Glenn Morrison.
For a while, I was in direct reporting with Glenn Morrison.
Where was Glenn Morrison based?
Et il était basé où, Glenn Morrison?
À Norcross.
Pardonnez-moi, je vous ai interrompu.
Norcross en Géorgie.
It was in Northcross in Georgia.
Is that Georgia, United States?
Vous voulez dire en Georgie, aux États-Unis?
Oui.
Yes.
And was Mr. Morrison an executive of AAP SAS or another entity?
Et Monsieur Morrison, c'était un cadre de AAPSAS ou d'une autre entité?
Il était président de la division.
He was president of the division.
De BCS.
BCS.
What is BCS?
Et c'est quoi BCS?
Building and Construction System.
It means Building and Construction Systems.
Of which company?
Et ça appartient à quelle société?
Arconic.
Arconic.
Are you drawing a distinction between AAP SAS and Arconic?
Est-ce que vous établissez donc une différence entre AAPSAS et Arconic?
Alors, il y a simplement différents niveaux hiérarchiques. Pour moi, Arconic, c'est l'entreprise dans sa globalité. À l'époque, sous ce chapeau, il y avait différentes divisions.
In fact, Arconic is the global organization, if you like, and at the time, under that big global name, there were different divisions.
BCS était une partie de cette division.
And BCS was part of that structure.
BCS est principalement orientée donc bâtiment justement.
So it's mostly concentrating on building, precisely.
Et AAP faisait partie donc de cette division.
And AAP was part of that division.
Would either Mr. Belknap or Mr. Morrison get involved in any detailed technical discussions with you about any particular products?
Et est-ce que M. Belknap ou M. Morrison auraient parlé avec vous à un niveau technique du développement de certains produits?
Ils ont toujours porté un intérêt sur le développement des produits d'une manière générale, mais de là à dire que ils avaient une vue et ils allaient dans les détails au niveau de ces développements, je pense qu'on ne peut pas le dire.
Well, they've always been interested in a general way about the development of products, but as to say whether they had a very detailed view of these products, no, we couldn't say that.
Did you ever discuss fire safety or the fire performance of Reynobond products, either with Mr. Belknap or with Mr. Morrison?
Est-ce que vous avez discuté des questions de sécurité incendie ou des performances au feu des produits Reynobond, soit avec M. Belknap, soit avec M. Morrison?
Oui, certainement.
Yes, certainly.
Did you ever discuss the fire performance and fire classification of Reynobond 55 PE with either or Mr. Morrison?
Est-ce que vous avez discuté donc des performances au feu ou de la classification au feu des produits Reynobond 55 PE avec soit M. Belknap, soit M. Morrison?
C'est difficile à exprimer. Je dirais oui, de toute manière, parce que à partir de probablement 2007 ou 2008, on a commencé à présenter des développements qu'on voulait faire au niveau des produits A2.
Well, it's difficult to explain, but let's say globally, yes, because during the period from 2007-2008, we started to present developments we were interested in for A2 type products.
Et dans ce cadre, pour faire des demandes d'investissement potentiel, il fallait bien sûr leur expliquer ce qu'on voulait faire et quel était l'intérêt potentiel.
And of course, if you placed yourself in that framework, in order to get the potential investment we needed, we had to be able to explain what we wanted to be doing and the interest it had.
Mais de là à dire que c'est de nouveau aller loin dans les certifications et dans les classements des tests au feu, je ne pense pas qu'on le faisait.
But whether we were going far in the detail of fire performance, fire certification, no, I don't think we did that.
Did you ever have cause to discuss the BBA certificate in relation to Reynobond 55 panels with either Mr. Belknap or latterly with Mr. Morrison?
Est-ce que vous vous êtes trouvé dans la situation où vous aviez à discuter des certificats BBA pour le produit R55, soit avec M. Belknap, soit avec M. Morrison?
À ma connaissance, non.
No, as far as I remember, no.
Mr. Chairman, I'm looking at the clock. I've probably got another 10 minutes before I can arrive at a very good natural break.
Let me just check with Mr. Schmidt. Mr. Schmidt, Mr. Millett is telling me that he would like to continue for another 10 minutes or so. Would that be acceptable to you?
Monsieur Schmidt, Monsieur Millett vient de me dire qu'il aimerait poursuivre pendant à peu près 10 minutes parce qu'on arrive à une pause naturelle. Est-ce que c'est acceptable pour vous? Est-ce que ça vous va?
Oui, tout à fait.
Yes, absolutely fine.
Good. Thank you very much.
Merci.
Well, there you are, Mr. Millett, another 10 minutes or so to get to the end of the subject matter.
Donc, Monsieur Millet, vous disposez d'à peu près 10 minutes encore pour arriver à la fin de cette question.
Great, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Schmidt, can you please be shown your second witness statement in the French, page 9, paragraph 13?
Donc, on va regarder maintenant votre deuxième déposition. La version française, c'est page 9. On va regarder le paragraphe 13.
And the English also at paragraph 13, please.
C'est aussi le paragraphe 13, bien sûr, en anglais.
Read the French to yourself, I will read the English.
Donc, je vais vous demander de vous relire personnellement ce paragraphe 13.
You say, my role involves overseeing all aspects of the business of AAP SAS, including operational, logistical, sales, and technical issues. By this, I mean that the senior management team reports to me on such matters. I'm not involved in the day-to-day discussions which take place, but relevant points should be elevated to me as necessary, and I would generally receive updates as the senior management monthly meetings, which were held at the Merxheim site and which from 2018 are now held on a weekly basis. Would you say that you had oversight of all of the business of AAP SAS at Merxheim?
Donc, est-ce que vous pourriez dire que vous aviez un contrôle global de tout le business de AAP-SAS sur le site de Merxheim?
Oui.
Yes.
Do you accept that you, from August 2007, were ultimately responsible for all important decisions taken about the manufacture and sale of products made at Merxheim?
Et donc, est-ce que vous acceptez qu'à partir de la date de 2007, vous étiez responsable et vous aviez le contrôle de toutes les grandes décisions qui étaient prises en matière de fabrication et de développement de produits à Merxheim?
Oui.
Yes.
Did that include Renault Bond 55?
Et ça couvre le Renault Bond 55?
Oui.
Yes.
Can we look at page 20 of the statement in French, please, and
Donc,
page 16 of the statement in English?
Donc, on va regarder la page 20 de votre déposition en français. Et je crois que c'est page 15 en anglais.
In the English, at the top of the page is paragraph 48. And you say, and this is on page 20 in the French, you look at page 20 in the French, please. We can have both up at the same time.
On voudrait les deux documents en même temps, français et anglais. C'est le paragraphe 48.
You say,
Et vous dites,
I would also note, and just at the bottom of paragraph 48. So in the French, you'll need to look at the very bottom of the paragraph.
c'est tout en bas du paragraphe. French. Wait, should be noted. Is that what you're referring to, sir? It should be noted that in my experience, etc.
Exactly. I would also note that information may have been presented to management on specific occasions, for example, in relation to investment decisions in respect of FR or A2 investment projects.
Donc, en fait, c'est les 8 lignes avant la fin qu'on vous demandait de lire. Vous avez trouvé, pour être plus précis, qu'on vient de noter qu'il se peut, etc.
Yes?
Vous avez trouvé le texte?
Oui.
Yes.
Également, Madame Interpreter. The last 4 lines of paragraph 48.
Donc, c'est les 4 dernières lignes de ce paragraphe 48 qui nous intéressent. J'aimerais également souligner que, etc.
Oui.
Yes.
Now, looking at that, Mr. Verlet in his evidence says, and I'll just ask you to translate, Madam Interpreter, and the role generally assumed by the technical team.
Et donc, M. Verlet dit dans sa déclaration, dans sa déposition, et le rôle généralement assumé par l'équipe technique,
was to inform and educate the management team.
C'était d'informer et d'éduquer l'équipe de direction.
Do you agree that was the role generally assumed by the technical team?
Est-ce que vous en convenez? C'était bien là le rôle de l'équipe technique.
Ça dépend comment vous interprétez éducation ou formation. Dans tous les cas, l'équipe technique a fait plusieurs présentations lors de nos réunions de management sur des aspects qui étaient liés au, à la qualification des produits.
Well, I mean, it depends a bit what you mean by training or education. But what is true in any case is that the technical team gave several presentations during management meetings to explain technical elements of products and development.
Mais, pardon, mais je peux pas dire que en termes de fréquence, je vais dire, ça s'est pas passé une fois tous les 2 ou 3 mois, peut-être une fois par année ou une fois tous les 2 ans.
But I mean, it's important to realize that the frequency wasn't so high. It wasn't once every 2 or 3 months. It probably happened once a year or maybe once every 2 years.
Did those presentations include information about fire testing or fire certification?
Et ces présentations, elles contenaient des informations sur les tests incendie, sur la certification incendie.
Oui.
Yes.
Is it right that occasionally there would need to be decisions made about what to do with testing and certification?
Et est-il vrai que de temps à autre, il fallait prendre des décisions quant à ce qui se passait en matière de certification d'incendie, par exemple?
Oui, certainement.
Yes, for sure.
Mais c'était pas forcément dans les mêmes discussions.
But it wasn't necessarily in the same discussion, the same framework.
What kinds of decisions did Claude Verlet have authority to make without getting authority from you?
Quel type de décision Claude Verlet pouvait se permettre de prendre sans avoir à se rapporter à vous?
Hein, déjà, il faut rappeler que Claude Verlet ne me reportait pas.
Well, it's important to mention that Claude Verlet didn't report to me.
Let me ask the question one more time. What decisions could Claude Verlet make without anybody's authority?
Donc, je repose la question, quelle décision Claude Verlet pouvait prendre sans se référer à l'autorité de qui que ce soit?
Oh, c'est une question qui est très générale.
It's a very general question.
Could Claude Verlet, for example, make decisions about whether to have a fire test for a product or have a fire classification for a product without seeking authority from anybody more senior?
Est-ce que, par exemple, eh bien, Claude Verlet pouvait prendre une décision sur organiser un test incendie ou une classification incendie pour un produit sans avoir à se référer à qui que ce soit plus haut dans la hiérarchie, plus senior?
Non, je pense que quoi qu'il arrive, même pour faire un test au fait, ça impliquait des ressources financières, donc il devait obtenir un accord.
No, because I mean, even for something just like a fire test, you need a financial wherewithal, and therefore he needed some agreement to do that.
Whose agreement would be needed?
Et donc, il lui fallait l'accord de qui?
Je pense que c'était le directeur commercial parce que c'est en grande partie, ça faisait partie du budget marketing.
I think he would have called upon the commercial director because in a large extent it had to do with the marketing budget.
And who was the commercial director in the years you were managing director and then president?
Et donc, le directeur du marketing, pendant les années où vous étiez managing director et président, ce monsieur ou cette dame, c'était qui? Qui était-ce?
Alors, il y en a eu sur toute la période. Il y en a eu 3. Si on part d'environ 2005 à 2017.
There must have been about 3 over the period 2005-2017.
Yes, and could you...
Pardon.
Vous pourriez nous dire qui c'était?
Oui. Guy Scheidecker,
There was somebody called Guy Scheidecker
jusqu'en 2011.
that's up to 2011.
Après, il y a en août 2012. J'ai un
No.
doute. Je crois que c'est 2012.
I'm not too sure, but I think maybe in fact it's 2012.
2012, oui.
It
Et
is 2012.
et Alain Flacon, qui est arrivé en 2012.
Then there was Alain Flacon, who arrived in 2012.
Et Alain a changé en 2016 ou en 2017 et il y avait peut-être Lionel Marconnet à la fin.
So I think Alain Flacon changed maybe in 2016 or 2017, and then at the end there was probably somebody called Lionel Marconnet.
So this is the role which I think in the translation has been called the Director of Sales and Marketing in the English versions of your statements.
Donc en fait, ça c'est le rôle qui correspond au directeur des ventes et du marketing. Enfin, c'est comme ça que ça a été traduit dans la traduction de votre déposition. C'est ça?
Oui.
Yes.
Now, what kinds of technical decisions would be escalated to you to make?
Et quel type de décision technique remontait jusqu'à vous pour pouvoir être prise?
Décision technique sur quoi?
Technical decisions about what?
That is my question.
Mais c'est précisément ma question.
Mais qui remontait de l'équipe de Claude Verlet ou?
You mean coming up from Claude Verlet's team, or where did they come from?
Well, that's my question. Let me try it again. What kinds of technical decisions would come up to you for you to make?
Mais c'est précisément ma question. Donc, je voudrais savoir quel type de décision remontait jusqu'à vous pour que vous les preniez.
Je pense que, encore une fois, si c'est des questions qui viennent de l'équipe de Claude Verlet, je pense pas qu'il y a des questions techniques qui me remontaient jusque chez moi.
Well, once again, I mean, if there were technical questions belonging to Claude Verlet's team, I don't believe that there were technical questions escalating up to me.
Very well. Well, we may look at that answer as we go through further questions in due course.
Bon, ben, on reviendra peut-être sur cette question et cette réponse ultérieurement.
Mr.
Très
Schmidt.
bien.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's probably now that we've arrived at a natural break for the day.
Yes. Well, that seems a very good point then. Mr. Schmidt, we're going to stop there for the afternoon.
Donc, Monsieur Schmidt, je pense que c'est une pause naturelle, donc on va s'interrompre pour l'après-midi.
Now we're going to have a break. I have to ask you, please, not to talk to anyone else, including your lawyers, about your evidence or anything to do with it.
Donc, on a une pause et je vous demande de parler à personne, pas plus vos avocats que qui que ce soit d'autre.
All right?
Ça vous convient?
Oui.
Yes,
And-
of course, yes.
Thank you. And I will remind you of that every time we have a break in the evidence. But if for some reason I forget, please bear it in mind.
Donc, je vous le rappellerai à chaque fois qu'il y aura une pause dans votre déposition. Mais si par hasard j'oubliais de vous le rappeler, n'oubliez pas, vous, que c'est la règle.
Oui.
Yes.
Thank you. So we will stop now and we'll start again at 10 o'clock English time tomorrow, UK time tomorrow.
Donc, on s'interrompt maintenant et on reprend demain à 10h, heure britannique.
All right?
Ça vous convient?
OK.
Thank you.
Très bien.
Look forward to seeing you then. Thank you very
Merci. Et on se retrouve demain. Merci.
much. 10 o'clock.
Bonsoir.
Please.
Merci.